Hey guys, Daddy-O here from Dadventure TV, coming at you today from a lovely evening down along the Anacostia River, Washington, D.C. And now that I got your attention, sorry, admittedly, that was a little clickbait, but stick around because I am going to explain to you why I think, personally, there are some issues with the Rivian R1T that if you're thinking about buying it, you really should consider. And you need to think about, and it shouldn't just be this great love fest that all the auto journalists seem to have with it. Some great things about the vehicle. I love it. But there's also some issues with it that I think people should think about and consider if they're going to use it as an adventure vehicle as it's being built. So stick around, stay tuned, and we'll dig into the R1T a little deeper. All right, so number one on my list of problems that I have with the R1T, and personally for me, this is going to be a killer for getting the vehicle. I cannot get the vehicle as it's currently constructed because of this reason, and that is the bed length. So the length of the bed on this truck is 4.5 feet. 4.5 feet. Why 4.5 feet? I don't get it. When the Gladiator came out, there were a lot of people who either complained or noted as a drawback the fact that it only has a 5-foot bed. Now there's a lot of trucks with only a 5-foot bed. Even some half-ton trucks only have the 5-foot bed if you get them with the full back seat. The Raptor actually is Ford Raptor is a perfect example. I think the TRX may also only have a 4-foot bed. Excuse me, a 5-foot bed. And so 5-foot beds are fairly common in the industry, especially in mid-sized trucks, which is kind of where the R1T is. But the R1T doesn't even have a 5-foot bed. It's got a 4.5-foot bed. And in my mind, there's two real problems with a 4.5-foot bed that you need to think about. I'll show you the first here in a minute on my Gladiator. So this is the first problem with a 4.5-foot bed, right there. As far as I know, nobody makes a cap or a canopy yet for a 4.5-foot bed. This is the Alucab canopy that I put on my Gladiator, and it's amazing and it's great. And why? Because you can do this. You can do this. I'm having a little issue with this one. There. And you can do this. And all of a sudden, you have a secure, lockable storage, metal, lights. Where's the button? Here it is. Light that helps light up the interior here. And you have all this usable space to store things like your shovel and your max tracks and your tire repair kit and your box full of recovery gear and all your stuff that you're going to need for all of those outdoor adventures you go on. Now, maybe somebody will make one for the R1T as this becomes more popular, but as it sits now, I don't think there's one available. So if you're wanting to put a cap on, or a canopy as they call it sometimes, or even something like a Go Fast camper or the Alucab camper, which is basically has a pop-up tent that's on the top here, and it's all one unit, so you can access it from the pop-up tent from the inside. If you wanted to put something like that, Vagabond makes one, a camper type unit. I don't think anybody makes them for the 4.5-foot beds either. So you're gonna have problems with covering it. Why is it nice to get covered? Because all these open units, like everybody shows in all these videos, I personally am not a fan of, because they let dust, rain, dirt, just mud, everything into your bed and all over the gear that you're keeping in there. This is waterproof, sandproof, dustproof, and I can tell you that it lives up to the hype. So here is the second reason that I have a problem with a 4.5 foot bed, and that is this bad boy right here, my mountain bike. So I specifically got the IU cab Canopy in a pickup truck because, with a 5 foot bed, because I wanted to be able to store my mountain bike in here securely. I carry it around with me all the time, 24/7, and it doesn't intrude into the passenger compartment at all. With my old Land Rover, I had to flip the back seat down, wheel went in there. So when I got this was the main idea. But as you can see, with a 5 foot bed, it just barely fits. For reference, this is a Santa Cruz Bronson, extra large, about a 1255 mil wheelbase. Front wheel off, upside down, dropper seat post all the way down, and it just fits. It obviously will not fit into a 4.5 foot bed. So for me, that is the main reason why, as I said, I can't buy the Rivian as it's currently configured. That bed just doesn't work for me. This is an absolute must. So I would recommend that anybody else that's looking into buying it, measure whatever you're going to keep back there. A 4.5 foot bed, you might have problems. You can see I also keep a 5 foot high lift jack. That just fits, obviously, because it's 5 feet. Would not probably fit in a 4.5 foot bed. And it's nice to be able to keep your stuff in here because it doesn't get dusty, it doesn't get dirty, it doesn't get wet. It also, as you can see, even with the Max Tracks and the shovel and stuff, you know, my Land Rover, I had to have a lot of that stuff on the outside. A lot of other vehicles you do. And of course, the more stuff you strap to it, the more wind resistance you create, the lower your fuel economy. Put everything inside, keep your outside nice and streamlined. So if you're thinking of it, that 4.5 foot bed could really be an issue. Measure what you're going to keep in there and make sure it would fit. Take it down to the, well, I guess they're not going to have dealers for Rivians. When I test drove this Jeep, I took my mountain bike and put it in the back and measured it and made sure it would fit. I guess you just have to do that sort of virtually with the Rivian, but definitely do it, because otherwise you could spend a lot of money on a vehicle and wind up realizing that it doesn't work for your needs. So the next thing with the Rivian is right here, the rock rail or rock slider, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the R1T has. It looked like it had something down there, but it looked like it was plastic. And look, I don't care what the ground clearance is on that thing. You start really going off-road and doing some of the trails that Rivian was doing and was showing in the video, and you're going to start rubbing the body. Having some protection down there is going to be important. If it doesn't already have it, what aftermarket opportunities are there? Are there places to attach it underneath? I don't know. Nobody's looked into it. Nobody's shown the underside carriage. I mean, other than very briefly to show you that it's all flat. But are there attachment points where you could attach something like that? Here's the other reason why it's important. The high lift jack. You need to have a place when you're actually off-roading that you can lift the vehicle with a high lift jack, something that will take the weight, the full weight of the vehicle. On a Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, you can use the high lift jack here. You should be able to use it on the bumper somewhere on the rear. The bumper could have high lift jack points on it. You could have a rock rail attached to the frame. Same thing on the front. If you have a front bumper, you really should have a place to put the high lift jack so you can lift it there. You know, these videos, they keep showing everything going perfectly fine and dandy and hunky-dory, and that's great, but there will be times where you're going to be out there and you're not going to be able to jack it up using that scissors jack because the way the angle is going to be, or you're going to have to be able to lift it up to get some rocks underneath of the one of the wheels in order to give you the articulation that you need to get it over an obstacle or a feature, you're going to have to use a high lift jack on that thing. Can you do that? I don't know, because why? The videos don't tell you. All it is a big love fest. Oh, it's great, it's amazing. Okay, well, it is a nice vehicle. They have done a lot of thinking about it, but there's some other stuff that I don't know if they have, and right now the journalists are completely missing. So again, think about that if you're going to use it off-road. And here's my next issue, right there. Well, there and there. 20-inch wheels and some tires that, quite frankly, are, they call them off-road tires, but they're a very mild AT tire. I'm going to put a picture up here, and you can see on the picture the tread on the tire is just not a very aggressive tire. And also with a 20-inch wheel, it doesn't give you a lot of sidewall. Even in the Love Fest videos, there were 2 videos where they got flats because of sidewall cuts. Now, could those have happened even with a tire with a larger sidewall? Sure. I mean, those were some rocky trails that they were going, and I give Rivian credit for taking it up that trail. That was real off-roading. But in general, just your chances increase of flats out on the trail with 20-inch wheels and with sidewalls that are not as high. You can't air down as much. I'm sorry, Pirelli Scorpions, I don't care if they did specifically design them for that truck. I'm not trusting Pirelli Scorpions as an off-road tire. I want something that is proven and a little more trusted with a true sidewall that's going to be pretty stiff and puncture resistant and have a lot more of an aggressive, deeper tread. Even as an AT, these are the Wild Peak, the Falcon Wild Peak ATs, not the mud trains, and you can see how deep the tread pattern is there. Let's see. Here's my little key thing. Not sure if I can show you. So there it is, right? And we're gonna put it in, and it goes down pretty far. So probably a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 millimeters. So that's something you got to think about if you're going to get the truck. And I don't think that those wheels can be swapped out because of the calipers. I think that because of the brake calipers and the size of them, you might be stuck with those 20s being the smallest wheels that you can put on the vehicle. They also mentioned that the 34-inch tire overall is the biggest tire that you can fit in the wheel well, which means you can't get a bigger tire on that 20 and still fit it. Now there might be a way to get around that. On my Land Rover, which also had the air suspension, companies make these lift rods. Basically, the rod, it's a little rod about that big, and it goes in the tire, so behind the tire and the wheel. That is what tells the computer what height the vehicle is at and when to stop. So when you say you want an off-road height, that's what calibrates it for it and says, okay, now you're in off-road height, stop there. And these rods are different length, so it basically tricks it into thinking it's in a different height. So it's a way to lift the vehicle and keep it a little higher so that you can fit a larger tire on to give you a little bit extra clearance in the wheel well. Will you be able to do that with Rivian? I don't know. Again, but nobody's mentioned it. Nobody said, gee, by the way, they put 20s on this thing and they're not ideal for off-road, and these tires, while okay, are not the most aggressive. They haven't even talked about, I don't know, are they 2-ply, 3-ply sidewalls? Are they mountain rated? Are they winter rated? Are they, how are they in the snow? How are they in the ice? How are they on rain? You know, they haven't talked about any of this stuff. Just, oh, it's just a big love fest. So again, that's something you need to consider, because if you go out in 20s with those tires regularly and routinely, you will get punctures, you will have problems, you will have to be careful, a lot more careful with rocks, you will have to be a lot more careful with features and obstacles. It's an issue. So I I would just think about that when you buy the vehicle.